This tutorial on getting your Halo Infinite Spartan in the VRChat is divided into two videos. This one and a video by the creator, One Weird Guy. You'll have to jump between the videos momentarily, but it shouldn't really be a big hassle. For now, let's jump into Blender. To get our Spartan into Blender, we use a software called Eker. After installing Eker, press N to open the side menu. Navigate to Eker, import Spartan. Ensure that the use perps IK rig is checked, and then write your gamertag down here. And just import the Spartan from gamertag. This will take a while and your Blender will be frozen for that time. After your Spartan has been imported, you should go over to the Viewport Shading tab and ensure all the materials on the Spartan look correct and that this is what you want to continue with. Now we can delete these excess objects. So going over to the hierarchy, opening the rig, and under the rig, there are a lot of these objects that we can get rid of down here. So delete. Then we will want to clean up the excess bones that are present in the IK rig. So selecting the IK rig itself, going over to data, reveals us this menu that shows a lot of hidden bones. Now we will want to show all of the bones except the ones with DEF in the start. Okay, go over to edit mode and we can delete all of these bones by drag selecting and pressing delete and then bones. Now we can show the remaining bones, and these are the bones we're going to be working with. At this point, go over your model one more time to ensure that everything looks correct. For some reason on this model, the knife is a bit weird, so I will have to fix that. And note at this point, if we try to pose the rig, it will not work as this is not connected via weights to the mesh itself, but this is fine currently. When creating the custom UV maps for the baked textures, you will notice when scrolling through the material section that the Eker-ripped Spartan doesn't have named materials. So in order to find the chest piece, for example, you will just have to scroll through all of the materials until you find the correct pieces. After resizing all of the UV maps for the separate materials, you may notice that there's an extra one right here that is not mentioned in the other tutorial. And this one is for some inner hip connector that is usually not visible from the outside. But we will want to account for this as well. And in order to do that, we will just have to find some spot in the UV map where it can fit. So in my case, I'll try to move it here and just scale it down. And there we go, I'm fine with that. Later on, if you come across UV maps like this, where the textures of a material seem to be duplicated side by side, but otherwise they would fit in a square, what you want to do is select the duplicate and just move it on top of the other part. And now you have a nice square once again. And here the same thing with the helmet. So selecting these and just moving them on top. When loading into the shared shader group of the Eker-ripped Spartan mesh, you may notice that the whole set of nodes is very scrambled and all over the place. But don't worry, we will just need to find some specific nodes. So in order to find them, right click, find, search for group output. Okay, there it is. We will move this to the right next to this principled BSDF node. Then we will need to find the separate color node and look for the one that has one connection coming out of the red. That's the one that we want. And also move it close to here. And that's all the node adjustments you need to do. When creating the UV maps for the attachments, if you happen to have more than 4 texture groups, such as 5 in my case, with, for example, 2 separate shoulder pads and an attachment, plus the gloves and knees, you can scale down some texture groups by 0.5, such as in my case, I've scaled down the knees and the knife. So in total, everything still fits on the UV map. These 2 texture groups just take up 1 quadrant and are a little bit squished. They will have a little bit lower quality. In the current state of our Spartan, if we try to select the armature, go into pose mode, and try to pose some part of the skeleton, we will notice that the mesh itself will not move with the skeleton. And this is due to these bones not having an associated weight in the mesh itself. So if we look at the mesh and go into a mode called weight paint, we can actually see that there are some weights actually painted on the mesh. But one key thing to notice here is that these are the vertex groups here in the data tab. And these are named based on previous bones that we have deleted. Those are the original bones that come from the ribbed asset from the game. But if we look at the armature, here we have different named bones than what these vertex groups are named. So what we will have to do next is to rename these old bones or old vertex groups named after previous bones and rename them to now have the correct names for the bones that we're using. That might sound a bit confusing, but I'll walk you through it. Now, before we start renaming those vertex groups, I want you to select the rig, go into pose mode, and just get familiar with the names of these bones. So you can see selecting these bones and the name of the bone is on the top left there. So for example, spine 1, this is the root of the entire skeleton. We go spine 2, spine 3, move the upper body, neck, head, clavicle, arm up, arm 4, hand, and then all the fingers. The fingers have a number at the end, 1, 2, 3. Then the legs, we have a thigh, shin, foot, and a toe. And there's a left and right version of these. Now if we go back to the mesh, weight paint, and open the armature of the rig, we can see the names of these bones here. And what I want you to do is open up all of the categories so we can see all the names. For the fingers, you don't need to open up all of these since they are just the same name, but with a changed number. There we go, just have that open there. Now we will start renaming the vertex groups. So first of all, go to the drop-down arrow and click Sort by Name. Then go to the very bottom and select the bottom vertex group. Now we will have to find the corresponding bone for this specific vertex group. So when I move a specific bone, I want this vertex group that is highlighted to move along with it. And for the case of this knife, when I move this center chest bone, which is called spine 3, I want this to move. So what I will do is I will copy the name and just paste it here. So now the name of this vertex group is spine 3. That means that when this bone is moved, I'll show you here, then the knife moves along with it. Moving on to the next one. Now we will also want this vertex group to move with the same bone. So in this case, I'll just use the same name and it'll append a 001 to it. Now this is important because we will have to later on mix these together and we will use this 001 or 002 to find those groups that we need to mix. But for now, just put on the same name for the groups of vertex groups that you want to later on mix together to be used for the same bone. Next one seems like this middle one, so that's spine 2. This one seems to be nothing, so I will delete it with this minus icon. This one also goes to the same spine 2 group or bone. This one is nothing, nothing. Then we get to the right thigh. This is in the right arm up. Now this one will be also for the upper arm. So here we can see a gradient, and the blue means that when the bone is moved, anything in the blue will not move at all, but the stuff in the green will somewhat move. So if we're looking at these two bones, it would be this upper bone, because if we move this, then these parts move, but this part here doesn't move. So we're going to connect this to be the same as that. So arm up, arm. Next up, toe. And here our first showcase of the fingers. So this is a right thumb. Now you can see the numbers 3, 2, 1. I'll just paste in the name and change the number. Next up, empty. Another thigh. Another arm. Oh, arm up. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Careful not to miss these fingers. They're very small areas. So pay attention to the names here shown on the right as you're deleting some empty groups. Now we have the pinky 0. We don't have a bone in this other armature for pinky 0, so this one we will just name as the hand. And you get the point here. So we'll just be going through all of the bones and renaming them to the according new bones here. Important part here on the knees to not connect the knee pads to the thigh and instead connect them to the shin bone. Otherwise, when you crouch down, the knee pad will just stay stationary and it'll look weird. So there we go. Now we have renamed all of the old vertex groups to be names of our new bones. Now we'll want to sort by bone hierarchy to get all of these bottom ones down here. It'll be later on easier to manipulate them that way. So now we want to mix together the vertex groups that we have duplicates of. So these ones with the numbers at the end. And the way to do that is go to the modifiers tab, click add modifier, and search for vertex weight mix. Now in the vertex group A, search for 001. And this will be a list of all of the duplicates we have. I will select these in order, so the head. And what we want to do here is delete the 001 and just select the base, the dev head, for example. Copy that name. And for the vertex groups B, put in the same name and then check the 001. So we're combining the head and the head 001, and they will be combined into the main, so the head. Okay, now select the vertex set to all and mix mode to add. Now if we look at the result here, find the head, you will see that it's not only just the red, but now it has also combined the other part, which is this one. So we will do this for all of the groups that we want to combine. And in the case here, where we have a Shin 001 and a Shin 002, we will attach the Shin 002 to the regular Shin. So we're already combining the 001 to this regular one, and now we're also mixing the 002 to the regular one. So now that we have all the necessary vertex group weights mixed together with the modifiers, we will just apply them all like this. And the shortcut to this is Control A. It will apply the selected group. Control A, Control A. There we go. Now going back to here. If you look at these, they are now combined together, such as this knife and torso. Now they are combined to these ones that don't have the extension to them, the number extension. So these ones are unnecessary now, and we can just delete these ones. And that leaves us with a clean set of these vertex groups that are assigned to each bone. Now at this point, you should want to check that the mesh is moving with the armature in pose mode when you move certain parts of the body, like this. An easy way to check for issues is by moving this root bone and just rotating the entire body. If any part of the body is stationary, then that needs to be looked at. A common issue is in the connection of the wrist and the forearm, or the upper arm and the forearm inside the armor here, where you may accidentally delete a weighted portion, and like a portion of the wrist here will be stationary. So let's say that would be the case. When I move the forearm, there would be a portion of the wrist just being stationary here. So in order to address that, we would select the mesh, go into edit mode. We need to hide the forearm armor here. So press L and then H to hide that. And let's say the issue would be here. So we need to select that part of the mesh with L, ensure that the whole mesh is selected there. Then go into the weight paint mode, find out the correct vertex group assigned for this area. And in this case, it would be the forearm right. So in an issue case, there would be blue around this area. So when the forearm is moved, anything in blue will not move. So if this was blue, then it would not move. Now, the way to fix this would be, we have the arm selected here in edit mode, go into weight paint and then click here, paint mask. Now you can use either the gradient here to make a nice gradient like this, so it's like red and then all the way to green and blue. Red will not move at all. In the original paint here it's green, which seems to be fine, but you can do that with a gradient, or you can go here into brush, click N, go to tool, under brush settings, go to advanced, click off front faces only, and in fall off, click projected and ensure front face fall off is off. That means that now when you're painting with the brush, it'll paint on both sides of the mesh. So now if we click the mask again, and if we could paint here, it would paint on both sides, so we could paint it red with a slight gradient to make it a bit more smooth, and like that, we would have the same outcome. Now, in my case, it was already good, so I don't need to do that. But once you are done, you go into edit mode and Alt H to unhide everything you've just hidden. Now, with some Spartan models, there's an issue with the weight paints around the toe area. So if we select the armature, go into pose mode and try to move the toes, we will see it'll move some of the ankle, and also the bottom of the heel will for some reason get moved. And this is the actual in-game weight paint. So if we check the weight paints here for the toes, you'll see that this is correctly red, but a lot of this stuff is green. So it's getting moved along with the toe for some reason. And if you check the left toe, it's actually very much different. And here, up here near the ankle, we also have some light blue. So that part is getting moved as well. So let's address that now. Going into edit mode, selecting some parts that I don't want to be visible. So these guys here, they were fine, hiding them out of the way. All right, now I'm selecting this portion and also this. There we go. I don't want to select the armor surrounding the foot. Now also be sure to select the bottom of the foot as well. All right, going into weight paint mode, selecting the paint mask, and I have the correct vertex group selected. Now I'll want to start addressing these areas. For this, I'll be using the gradient at a weight of 0. So the blue starts to like take over the foot pretty much. So when the toe is moved, I don't want these parts to move, so I'm painting them with blue. And pretty much this connection area I want to still stay in place. And this part I'm making blue. It's good enough for me. And if you look at that within the armature, now posing, now it only moves that part and no toe, I mean, no ankle movement. So another faulty part here in the elbow, when it's moved to an extreme position, you can see that the skin comes out of the armor. We don't want that. In order to fix it, we check the mesh, go to weight paint, find the faulty vertex group. In this case, it's the left forearm. And if you look at that spot in the weight paint, we can see that it's only light blue when that spot should be blue. So it doesn't move at all when this is moved. So to fix that, go into edit mode. I'm pressing L on this. Finding that spot. Actually, first I want to hide this so I can see what I'm doing. Click L on this. Back to weight paint. Mask the area. Using a gradient with the 0 weight, I'll paint from here like this. And now that part doesn't get moved at all. Now moving the armature again, we can see the skin doesn't come out of the armor anymore. With the current version of Perp's IK rig, which we are using on the Spartan here, there are a few issues with the pinky finger and the ring finger that will become apparent if this rig is used in VRChat. So here's how to address those issues. Start by selecting the mesh and the rig at the same time. Right-click, Parent, Armature Deform. Click Keep Transform on the bottom left. Now select only the rig and holding Control, rotate it to the right 90 degrees. So we have -90 here. Okay. Select the rig, Control A, and apply the rotation. Now we can select the rig, go into edit mode, turn on the option here for x-axis mirroring. And now any changes we make to these bones will be mirrored on the other side as well. So we're getting two birds done at the same time. Now for these fingers, we will need to go here to bone relations and connect these two to the root finger. So pinky 2 into pinky 1, pinky 2 into pinky 3 into pinky 2. The same for this one. So these are the fingers we are addressing since they're faulty. Now these ones we have to do manually for both sides. Okay, and now if we move these, they will be connected. That's what we want. So now addressing the issues with the fingers. The issue with the ring finger is that the rotation of this middle part is unnatural. So this last part may not rotate correctly. And the pinky finger is not centered. So in order to fix these, we will set the transform orientation to normal and the pivot point to active element. So we have the origin point there. And then just rotating this to be slightly better. I'll also be moving it a little bit to be in the middle. And that's fine. A little bit more changing needed for this pinky finger. So we want to ensure that the end point here is nice and at the end like with these other ones, while still ensuring that we have the middle of the bone or the bone be in the middle of the finger. And we can scale this down a little bit. There we go. And now our changes should also be mirrored on the other side. So now we've fixed all the issues with the rig, but there's one more thing we need to do in order to make the rig ready for VRChat. And that is to straighten out the legs. Currently they're a bit spread apart. We will have to just straighten them out. So select one bone in pose mode, press A, go to pose, clear transform all. Now ensure this is checked here. It is the x-axis mirror. So when we rotate one bone, it'll also rotate the other bone on the other side. Ensure your rotation is set to normal here. And start dragging the blue rotation here. While dragging, type in your keyboard -8, enter. That will put a -8 rotation on these and they will straighten out. Now for these feet, do the same. Start dragging now the green axis and type in 10. That will straighten those out. And then change the transform orientation from normal to global. Drag the blue axis and type in -5. There we go. Now our legs are straight. Now we want to apply this new pose as the rest pose. So going into object mode, selecting our mesh, and under the modifiers tab, click apply on the armature. Now select our rig, go into pose mode, select all of the bones with A, go to pose, apply pose as rest pose. Now go back into object mode, select the mesh and the rig, right click, parent, clear parent, right click again, parent, armature deform, and click down here, keep transform. At this point you can ensure one more time that everything's still working and that our rest pose is indeed this position. So now in Unity I have my Spartan set up with all the materials. There's a couple changes though that I want to still make, and one of them is selecting all the materials and changing the roughness down to 0.65. This will make the Spartan a bit more glossy and take the reflection of the map into account. and that's just the way I like it a bit more. Now the next thing is changing this view position. Currently it's around the chest height, and that's not correct. So for a Spartan of this size, 2.04 on the y-axis and 0.16 on the z-axis seems to be a good spot for the realistic eye position.